Hi, I'm Dave Koch. Welcome back to my channel. This is the third episode in this series on pricing your real estate photography and any photography really. But I come from a real estate background, so that's kind of what I'm dealing with. Anyway, today we're going to talk about how to stop wasting time with your quotes. Have you ever sent out a quote and then been ghosted? Or you spend a lot of time and effort chasing after people once you've given them a quote and you get nothing in response? It's not fun. But I'm going to show you how to fix that, because the best way to overcome objections to pricing is to never have that conversation at all. Here's the truth about pricing objections. They don't come from clients that are bad necessarily. They come from a lack of clarity on your part. So I'm really going to throw this right back on you. Most people don't know how to evaluate photography, and this may be their first experience with photography. And they don't know how to value it. They don't know what to expect. And they don't know what makes one photographer better than another. So it's incumbent on you to teach many of your clients why you have value. But most importantly, it's important to have a filter between you and the client that will effectively weed out the people who aren't your clients. This can be a pricing structure on your website. This can be your facts. The most important thing is to be open, available, and communicative so that people know what to expect from you, what they're getting from you, and what it's going to cost. Now, your website is a great place to start, but that's not the be-all to end-all. Really, the best way to do something like this is in a personal conversation where you can talk back and forth. The important thing is to listen. You're not there to sell what you want to do. You're there to solve a problem for the client. And a lot of the time, and I'm guilty of this myself, somebody will say, oh, I want you to shoot a such and such. And I get so excited with the prospect of shooting that. And I'm thinking of all the things I could do. I'm not listening to what the client needs from that photo shoot. So it's very important to listen to their needs and then address their needs. The more you can directly identify and address those needs, the further down the road you are to getting that client as a paying customer. But before that, like I said, we need a little bit of a filter. And that filter can be your website. It can also be an onboarding guide, a little PDF that you might make that outlines everything that you do, what to expect, how to prep the scene, and your pricing structure. People are going to be able to go to that, your website or the PDF, and sort of choose whether you're the right photographer for them or not. And those that sort of pass the test and do communicate to you, they are a ton more likely to turn into paying customers because you've already shown them what you do and your needs or their needs and your services align. Let's discuss an elephant in the room. I know there's a lot of debate about whether you should post your prices online or not. And I'm of the opinion, why the hell not? You know, it's not a secret. And if they are a secret, you're in the wrong business. You know, okay, let's back up. It does make a difference if you're commercial, because every commercial job is different and you do have to quote each individual job specifically. But real estate's a commodity photography business. And, you know, whether you price based on sale price of the house or square footage or number of pictures, there should be a firm and hard guide to what your prices are. And if you keep that secret or don't post it or it's not readily available online, in my opinion, people are going to be suspicious. I know a lot of people say, oh, you know, then your competition has a leg up on you and da, 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 da. And again, they're not your competition. If people, at least for me, maybe when you're in the beginning phase, people are very price conscious, but I bring so much more to the table, and my sales is about more than just my price. It's about my value. And when you do that, your price list, it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. People will come to you to hire you, not because you're the cheapest. And to be honest, I've had some people come to me and say, well, so-and-so will do it for, X amount. And I'll say, well, then hire them, because I don't compete on price. I don't offer discounts. I don't offer introductory offers, nothing like that. My price is my price. And if that doesn't work for you, I'm not your photographer. So post your prices, let people know. And then if you're too high for them or too low for them, then you know what? They're going to self-select out of the process, again, saving you time. Now let's talk about ghosting. Somebody asks you for some information, your pricing, you send them out your pricing and your guide, and you don't hear from them. You get ghosted. It's the filter working. It's, again, them self-selecting out of your process, or they're not quite ready yet. They're making a decision. For us as real estate photographers, most people want the pictures done tomorrow. So you're going to get generally an immediate response. But you know what? If you make the quote, if you send out your guide and they don't come back to you, then you're not the right photographer for them. And you shouldn't try and round peg into a square hole for them. It's much better for your own mental health to shoot for the people who are looking for a photographer like you. And again, this is not going to be a tier 1 photographer, maybe a tier 3 photographer and up. This is really going to come into play. But the more and more you can have your clients self-select into or out of your sales stream, the better. So if somebody calls you and asks you, what do you charge? The best response is to keep it simple and simplistic. Say my prices start at whatever they start at, and I'd be happy to send you a guide for all the services I'd offer. Get their email. Now you can add them to your list, and you can send them your guide so that they know, again, exactly what to expect and exactly what you're going to do and exactly what they're responsible for. Let's go ahead and talk about this guide for a second. What needs to be on there? Well, obviously, your pricing. That needs to be there. All the services that you offer, from Matterport to Twilights to aerials to websites to all that sort of stuff. And if you want, why that stuff matters. What is a website going to do for them? Why is this package better for some people than others? If you offer Airbnb photography, you'll want a different guide for that, because your pricing will be different for Airbnb versus MLS. At least it better be. That's going to be another video or 2 or 10. Anyway, back to this. What else should be on there? Examples of your work. Really good examples of your work. I would also include a property prep guide, because they don't know. People sell their homes once every 10 or 20 years. They don't know what to do and what to expect. Generally, the realtor is going to come to them and say, declutter, declutter, declutter. And as long as they hear that from them and from you, maybe it'll sink in and help out a lot. A lot of times, people are living in the homes as we shoot them, and that makes it harder. But the more you can get them with the idea of what you need to make good photographs, the more likely you are to get that sort of home. I think it's also important to put in at least a summary of your terms of service, if not the full terms of service. Let them know that they can't give the images to the next broker down the street or to whoever did the interior design or things like that. Cover things like what to do in case of a rain delay. What are your policies on that? What are your policies on if they don't like the pictures? If you're active on the Facebook forums, you'll see a lot of different problems that photographers have come up with. My terms of service have been built from watching those forums for years and seeing what the continual problems are and then addressing them. The best thing about having a contract, and if you don't have a contract, you should, but the best thing about having a contract is you can always point to that and say, it's covered here. Here's how we solve that. And how do they argue with that? This is something they've agreed to. It's something that's written. It was written before they hired you. And if it says, on a rainy day, we will only take pictures with 5 flashes instead of 4, that's the policy they agreed to. Obviously, that's an absurd example. But, things like specifically, how do you solve pictures they don't like? How many rounds of edits do they get? That needs to be covered in your contract. What happens, and this happens all the time, they hire you as an MLS photographer, but they're using the images for Airbnb. That needs to be covered in your contract and what the charges will be. Now, if somebody reaches out online, that's even easier. Just have a stock email response that says, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's my pricing guide and my style guide. Let me know if this works for you, and we can set up a schedule for you to get your shoot done. Done. You don't need to sell. You don't need to pitch. I personally hate being sold. Give me the information. Let me make the decision. I'm an intelligent person, and I respect my customers enough that I do that for them too. Here's what I do. If this works for you, they'll call you back. If this doesn't work, you know what? Then I wasn't the right photographer. Moving on. No harm, no foul. I think that's the best way to look at this. Here's a shift for your mindset. You are not a commodity. You are not selling trinkets on Etsy. You're a professional. You do a professional job. I do not drill and pull my own teeth. I go to a dentist for that. When people are coming to you, it's because they want a professional photographer. So first off, you need to be a professional in your interaction with them. That means arriving with a clean shirt, nice looking hair, good gear, being prepared to take your shoes off when you go in the house, professional demeanor, not smoking, there's 100 things you need to do to be professional, but it's also things behind the scenes like insurance and, all that, having a professional email address. Don't use Google for your email address. If you're bobsphotos@gmail.com, you just flash, I'm Mr. Unprofessional. So, have a domain name, use your domain name for your email, be a professional, and that just bolsters your credibility, your experience level, and your professionalism. So if you're tired of people, just dropping by your website to, kick the tires and price shopping and this and that, develop a filter, develop a method to take that off your shoulders so that you could spend more time being a photographer, because ultimately that's what we're all here for. I do hope you learned something in this. I certainly did in researching it. I had a lot of fun doing that, but I may not have everything right. If you've got some ideas, different ways to streamline your business, put them down there in the comments and share it with the community, because we'd all like to learn. Otherwise, I hope you got something out of this, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Dave Koch, and may your next shoot be your best shoot.